Would you like to learn from those that are taking their lives, their businesses, and their passions to the next level? Best-selling author of Speakeasy and master connector Lou Diamond is here to connect you to some of the most inspiring and amazing people on this planet. Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
Welcome, everyone, to another absolutely spectacular episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting you to the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. I'm your host, Lou Diamond, and today on Thrive Loud, we have a former Major League Baseball catcher, baseball Olympian, and a World Series champion. He is a sought-after motivational speaker focused on the high-performance mindset to help audiences unlock their untapped potential. He's a podcast host, he's written a children's book, and he continues to share his message about a compelling story of resilience, success, and the universal pursuit of greatness. Man, I like this guy already. I'm sure you will too. Thrive Loud listeners, I bring you Ryan Lavarnway. Ryan, welcome to Thrive Loud.
Hey, thank you. What an intro.
I try. It's like, now batting Ryan Lavarnway. That would be more effective.
Derek Jeter, number 2.
I like that after that gentleman passed away, they just kept playing that because I guess that was his, claim to fame throughout it.
Iconic, yeah.
So you've got a lot going on. A baseball career, a podcasting, speaking, children's writing. What a breadth of you're a true modern day Renaissance man, Ryan. I want to do a little rewind. I don't want to go all the way back to the womb. I kind of wanted to understand how after you left baseball, the world that you've been focusing on became the world that you've been focusing on.
Yeah, I almost fell into it. It wasn't something that I intended to do. And actually, for most of my baseball career when I was playing, the scariest question anybody could ask me was, well, what do you want to do after baseball? You went to Yale, so surely you'll do something great. And it was almost intimidating. When I played for Team Israel in the World Baseball Classic and they made a documentary about us, I traveled with the film for a while doing Q&A sessions afterwards. And people in the audience would come up to me after every session and say, you don't need this film to do this. You have a knack for speaking. You have a knack for commanding a room. And then I thought to myself, well, if I don't want to just talk about this film, what is it that is really important to me? And what would I want to talk about? What should be my message? So I spent almost a year developing and diving deep into my own life and realizing that, to me, it's what goes on between your ears that separates you from the rest of the pack. What can make a difference in your life? What's made a difference in my life throughout the course of my baseball career that allowed me, with physical limitations and with athleticism limitations, to become one of the best baseball players in the world? And how can people use that in their own lives to become the best version of whatever they're trying to do?
I like it. Ryan, professional sports, being a professional athlete is obviously at the apex of that particular sport's, top of the mountain. And as we know, it is not easy to stay at the top of the mountain, and it's not easy to thrive in that level as well. Playing baseball is one wear down on your body, let alone the fact that you are a catcher, which is a whole other session. I'm sure later in life your knees will love you for it. Maybe share with the listeners, I guess, the feeling of, hey, when you make it to the majors, that's one particular thing. Continuing to stay there, you've had a 10-year career spread across all different teams. Talk about, I guess, how competitive it is and how difficult it is to stay at that level.
So the stats, as they say them, are 7% of high school players get to play in college. 9% of college players get drafted to play professionally. And then of the players that even get to go pro, only 16% of those players play one day in the major leagues, and only 50% of those that play one day get more than a year. So I'm not terrific at math, but I can use a calculator. That means that if you play high school baseball, there's a 99.99 chance you're not going to play a year in the big leagues. And they say making it to the big leagues is the easy part. Staying is the hard part. And I learned that when I first made my big league debut. I got called up to the Boston Red Sox in August of 2011. I was hitting .305 for the first 8 days, and then I got sent down for the first time. And over the next 12 years, I was up and down and up and down and traded and released and up and down. 26 times I accomplished that dream, and 26 times I was fired in some sense from my dream job. So it's about making it. It's about finding a way to stay and stand out because they're always looking to make an improvement. Baseball's a $10 billion industry, and it's the best league in the world. It's the most competitive league in the world. So they're always looking for the best, the newest, who's going to help them win, who's the cheapest from all over the world. And it's the best 780 players in the world play in the major leagues. And whatever position you play, it's the best 30 in the world that have that job.
Ryan, I have a little bit of a sports bug in me my entire life, and I'm always fascinated by the business of sports, the sports itself, the competitiveness of it. We've had a lot of athletes on Thrive Loud from all different levels, all different sports, from hockey, basketball, professional track and field, gymnastics, and obviously baseball as well. Many pitchers, batters. And I always want to ask this question because it is one of the weirder things. In a weird way, you are not an individual. You're a product. You're a certain aspect for baseball, and hence the reason, they moved around. You have a specific skill and need, and they try and fill you into those needs. Yet it's a human game played by human beings and great athletes and great men where there's camaraderie and friendships and relationships and all the humanity that you have within the sport. The balance of being, just treated like a cog and moved around versus being a teammate and being part of a winning solution. Maybe talk a little bit about that dichotomy, because it is really weird, because it is a business. And at the same day, obviously, it's still a boys' game. So and as someone who's a catcher, those who aren't big baseball fans, catchers who happen to be a lot of commentators, knowledgeable people throughout their lives, because they have both the offense and the defensive component of the game, and they are at the center of everything behind every pitch. Maybe share a little bit about that balance between the two, the dichotomy of being treated like a product and the benefit of being a boy playing on a team.
Oh, man. So I think the decision makers on the team, the general manager, the head of baseball ops, is doing everything they can to make objective decisions and put the best product on the field from a wins and losses perspective. The more that I learn about that side of the game, they're not referring to them as players. They're saying they are a 3-win player. They're a 5-win player. They're a 1-win player, which means that statistically, the average season for this guy, their stat base, is going to help our team win 1, 3, 5 games more than replacing them with a standard average player. As a player, you do your best to meet those metrics, right? You want to have a certain exit velocity. You want to have a certain batting average, slugging percentage, OPS, throwing arm, defensive metrics. You do your best to put your statistics in the right area so that you grade well on the objective measurements. You also have to be a human being, because that's all that you are. So you want to be a good teammate, a good friend. You want to bring positive energy to the team and raise the vibes and never take away from the vibes. But those are intangibles. Those are something that your manager, your teammates, your coaches who are on the field, kind of at war with you every day, they feel and they can sense, but it's not measurable. So there's that counterbalance of, you have to meet the metrics, because the person that has the ultimate decision is viewing you as, how many wins are you going to help us get over a replacement? And at the same time, you need to be a good person, a good teammate, and be someone that your coaches and teammates want to have around, because if you're not, it doesn't matter how many wins you're going to help the team get. The vibes and the negativity that you might bring would otherwise detract from the rest of the team culture.
Ryan, I want to make the segue to this because obviously you speak for a living and you have this message of resilience and success. And if you just have to talk about those 26 times going up and down, I could only imagine the yo-yoing going on between your ears, your heart, your travel luggage, wherever you would go, obviously, for all this moving to maintain that. A lot of people that you speak to that are trying to be inspired in business and don't want to be thought of as a cog, want that humanity component of it. Can you share with the listeners some of these characteristics maybe inside of you, that resilience component that maybe is a teachable lesson or something that our listeners can benefit from your experiences so they can understand maybe a little bit about how they could relate it to their own life, how they could take those lessons that you have and apply it to their everyday?
Absolutely. For me, the biggest thing was look at the objectivity of the situation and try to understand right where you are honestly, without opinions, right? Like if I got sent down and I was playing great, that first time I was hitting 305, I was catching great. Well, David Ortiz was healthy again. So this was a purely business decision. I shouldn't get emotional about this. Or if you were playing poorly, right? Like I wasn't helping the team win. This makes sense from a wins and losses perspective. When you can take honest and objective consideration of why something happened, or in the real world, like if you didn't get a sales opportunity that you were looking for, or if you lost a client, why? What can you learn from it? What can you take objectively from the situation? From there, you own your responsibility in it so that you can then own your responsibility in taking the first next step in a positive direction. Anytime I went to AAA, I felt like I needed to be able to take control of making an improvement that would help me get back to the big leagues. So if you're in sales, if you hear no a lot, if you face a setback, take ownership of your responsibility in the loss, in the temporary failure, and then you can take ownership of the next step, moving you in the right direction towards the next sale, towards getting over that hump. And when you can take responsibility for the next step, you feel like you have a little bit of control back and you can move in a positive direction.
Ryan, you ran off some improbable odds of how rare it is to make it to the majors, let alone succeed within that. And you made a comment about, the low percentage of what that is, even for those that last past one season. You had not only had a longer career spread out up and down all over the place, you were part of an organization that won a World Series, which is got to be even a more infinitesimal, whatever the word is, number, a much, much smaller number within that. Obviously, look, you're part of a team throughout the whole season. Being involved with that team during that year, maybe talk about the specialness of it and the uniqueness that you experienced that season.
Yeah, the 2013 Boston Red Sox, especially coming after the 2012 Boston Red Sox, where the team lost 97 games. And in 2013, we were on our third manager in as many years because we had played so poorly, they kept firing the manager. And they changed the GM, and they changed the coaching staff. And they would bring in a couple new players that were on shorter-term contracts because we had played so poorly. But then that 2013 team was really special because we talked about our ultimate goal every single day of the season. And for me, that started with meeting Johnny Gomes on day one of spring training. He was known as a culture guy. He was known as a very intense person. And I introduced myself to him, and I said, "Hey, Johnny, I'm Ryan. Nice to meet you. How you doing?" And he said, "I'm great. I'm one day closer to the World Series parade." On day one. And in my mind, first of all, I'm thinking, well, we finished in last place last year. How's that possible? But on the other side of my mind, I was like, I'm a baseball player, which means that if I'm not superstitious, I'm at least a little stitious. Like, do we talk about our goals like that? If we talk about it, it's not going to come true. And Johnny, he combated that by saying, if we don't talk about what we want, how are we going to make it come true? So we talked about winning the World Series. How are we going to win today? We're going to be in first place. You don't need to have the manual scoreboard on the green monster in Fenway Park anymore. Just paint Boston in first place because no one's going to take it away from us. every single day we talked about our goal. And then when the Boston bombings happens, which is obviously terrible, we had this feeling that we were not playing just for ourselves and our team anymore, but that we were playing for something bigger than ourselves. And if anything positive could come of that tragedy, it's the understanding that when you play for something or you work for something or embody something that's bigger than you, you're always going to perform better, and it's always going to mean more than if you're going after something that was just for yourself.
Awesome. And by the way, I do remember that season vividly, and all those events, the Boston Strong messaging going on, and obviously some legendary players on that team, and great pitchers as well, which must have been just an unbelievable experience. I want to talk about another odds and a small thing here, because we do share something in common. We're both members of the tribe. And I noticed you mentioned you played for Israel. So talk about an infinitesimally small piece, although there's been some great ones in the history of baseball, being Jewish in baseball. There in a lot of places, actually, we had some professional golfers on Thrive Loud, and there is a huge growing Christian community, very devout, religious golfers that have played there. And in lots of college football rooms, there's, God is a big presence within that, and Christianity or other religions, such as Muslim, is infected and been a part of all the different sports, as all the religions are, which is great. But obviously, as a representation of the world, it's a very small piece of it. Any uniqueness or things about that you experienced, and what a great opportunity you got to represent Israel in your career. Maybe talk a little bit about that. I think it'd be pretty cool to chat around that.
Yeah, so I wasn't very connected with my own religion or my own Judaism until I played for Team Israel in 2016 and 2017 for the first time. And the experience for me was revolutionary. It helped me find my community. It helped me find my spirituality. And really, it became a community-based transition for me. I was so welcomed by the Jewish community nationally and globally, where every stadium I went to, people would say, "Hey, thank you for representing Israel. We're Jewish. This is my son. It's so great for him to see a Jewish sports player, because there's not that many of you out there." And then I think at the time we had 8 major leaguers that were Jewish.
Wow.
And that's a very low number for 780 in the league. So we all knew who each other was. We all rooted for each other. The Jewish Baseball News was a newsletter that I got, so I got all the updates on all the guys. But it really was cool to be a part of a new community that I hadn't fully embraced. And when I stepped into it, it embraced me back, and it taught me a lot about community. And that's why I ended up writing my children's book about it.
Yeah. Let's talk about that. Let's share with the listeners a little bit about your book, what it's about. Let's talk about it, because I think it's pretty cool and fascinating. And thank you for that wonderful segue. Obviously, your podcasting skills are coming in very useful here.
So I told you I tripped into speaking around this film, of the documentary of Team Israel. And I was doing the speaking about it, and my rabbi was the one who actually recommended I turn it into a children's book. The argument that I make is that you don't need to be Jewish to enjoy this book. Every time I sign it, I sign, "Do what you love and find where you belong." But the story is the story of me growing up in a mixed religion household, not knowing which side to lean towards, and really just sticking to baseball. And then Team Israel came calling, and I found my community. So it is through my experience as a Jewish player's lens. But the idea is, if you do what you love, you should find your people. You should find a community that you can belong to and embrace, and that will embrace you back. So it's been a wonderful experience. Writing a book was very difficult to get it right, but it's something that I'm very proud of, and that I'm very proud to share with the world, and that I've gotten tremendous feedback from everybody that's checked it out. And I've got some really, really nice letters from people that said that it meant a lot to them and their family, and it gave them a language to communicate with their children in.
Awesome. I'm going to go this way, because obviously the times that we're recording this is early March of 2024. And unfortunately, we're approaching, 5 months of what happened on October 7th in Israel, to someone that represented Israel. And, we got to play in the Olympics, and you obviously have a connection from that. What that day meant to you and every day since, just tap into that, Ryan, a little bit of your connection to that.
Oh man, I was was horrified. I was scared, I think, as a lot of people were, and angry. And then the response has been disappointing, if nothing else, from how people in this country are supporting the perpetrators. But I see my role as a Jewish sports figure, as a Jewish public person in this. I don't understand policy. I don't understand legality. I see my role in this as to be a role model and a breath of fresh air, and someone that can give the Jewish community something to look forward to, a reminder of that we can be proud to be Jewish. And when I speak to people, when I speak to audiences, I try to give them an hour where we can talk about baseball, right? Where they don't have to feel like they're stuck in the negativity or the politics or the protests. I try to give them an excuse to be proud to be Jewish and to embrace their community once again.
You just brought a parallel to me that I got to experience now, I guess, oh my goodness, 23 years ago, right after 9/11, where I was downtown in New York City during obviously that tragic day here in the United States. Everything came to a stop, and obviously football season was stopped, baseball season was stopped, and the first game back in New York, the Mets were playing at what was Shea Stadium, no longer there. And in this specific game, Piazza hit a home run. For like a half a second, everybody forgot about what was going on and all the tragedy that had happened and the terrible deaths on 9/11. And it was an escape. It totally was. And I was actually at the building when it happened, and because I had to be there. And I remembered when someone asked me, oh, it's just sports, or it isn't really important. I think in our lives, it's incredibly important, because it's not only distractions, as we've said, it's a business, it's a life, it's an identity to who you are, but it's also something we all connect with. And I think that's something that baseball, whether you're writing about the uniqueness of being a baseball player and Jewish and giving the inspiration of that piece, or your own story and telling people how to be resilient and staying as long as you did in baseball, it's the connection that we all have, whether it's our home team or a time and place and space, time and place in our world. I think it's a real important thing that we all have. And to your point, baseball seems to link those times and those memories, maybe more than other sports. Maybe because they play so many games. My goodness, I don't know how you could do it, but 162. But thank you for sharing that, and thank you for everything you do. One last thing before we hit the Fun Street section and the admin part of the show, Ryan, you host a podcast. Tell everyone about it, and what I ask this to content creators, and we can relate this to the children's book, but also to the podcast. You are creating a gift by creating great content and giving it to the world. But as the host, believe it or not, there's always like a happy accident or something that you get out of it. What's the thing that you've been benefiting, or the happy accident for you in hosting your podcast program?
Oh man, so I had no interest in starting a podcast. This was, again, something that I was encouraged to do by someone that I trusted. And they said, you should start a podcast. The podcast industry is exploding. If you don't have a podcast, you should start a podcast. And I thought about it for almost a year before I dove in of what would I be interested in. And it wasn't until I thought of something that would interest me that I was even willing to go about it. And what interests me, again, is what makes elite performers elite? Like, what makes people that accomplish the dream that millions of people have, and there's only one person that does it, or a couple, what differentiated them? And I'm not willing to accept that it's physical gifts. I'm not willing to accept that you were just born better, right? I don't buy it. So what is it that you think about? What are your mindset tricks? What lessons did you learn along the way? What do you think about? What do you specifically not think about that helps you become a standout elite performer? And what do I get out of it? Well, I get to ask the questions and peek behind the curtain of elite performers. And in a couple cases, I've had mindset coaches or somatic coaches run me through an exercise really quickly live on the podcast, where I've been brought to tears on the podcast, or I've had tremendous internal experiences live on the podcast where I'm like, oh my God, I have to recover and do an outro right now. But it's been so crazy to be able to speak to these people that are so talented and willing to share their knowledge and experience, and then to be able to share that conversation with other people that can benefit.
Ryan, now you know how I feel every single day and every time we do these interviews. You couldn't have summarized that better. It is when we decode what makes people thrive. So right back at you. All right, so let's do the admin part of the show, and then we're going to have a fun version of Fun Street here on Thrive Loud. Share with the listeners, Ryan, everywhere people can find you, websites, URLs, social handles, where they can get your children's book, all of that. We will put it in the show notes, but it gets more engagement when they hear it from you.
Amazing. My website is www.ryanlavarnway.com. Very easy. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active at Ryan Lavarnway. Instagram, I'm also active at R.Lavarnway. I have a Twitter that I don't use so often, but I could get messages if you want to reach out to me at Ryan Lavarnway. My kids' book is called Baseball and Belonging. You can find it on Amazon. DM me on social if you want a signed copy. And my podcast is called Finding the Way with Ryan Lavarnway.
Love it. That was one of the most organized run through of the admin. You knew it all, read it, almost as if you read it, but you didn't. We know you didn't. Anyway, he probably does it in his outro often when you got to find you. Okay. Are you ready to go down Fun Street with me, Ryan? I know you've been having fun from the very beginning.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm ready, but let's do it. Ready or not, here we come.
You're ready. You're being called up to the majors right now. You're getting, we're calling you to the plate. We were doing it before we hit record. We said now batting, Ryan. Anyway, okay. Can you share with the listeners what you shared with me as one of your all-time favorite movies?
All-time, Die Hard with a Vengeance. So good.
So this was funny that you picked the Die Hard with a Vengeance one, which was, if I'm correct, that's the third one, right? That's the New York City one. Is that right?
That's the one where I was old enough when it came out. I think I saw it in a drive-in movie theater with my folks. And I just, when you're a kid and you make a decision and it sticks with you for the rest of your life?
Yep.
That was the one where I was old enough to see it and know what was going on and not be asleep in the trunk yet, or the trunk of our minivan, not like a trunk. And I loved it. I loved that whole franchise.
Yeah, the whole franchise is good, and it's just such a great character. And what's great is it set a whole series of movies, when there was the unsung hero, and it's Die Hard on a plane, or it's Die Hard in a submarine, or it's Die Hard on a boat. It's basically like the pitch that they had thereafter. Big fan of that. Now, I'm going to ask you an extra movie bonus question because of your background, and that is, Ryan, what is your all-time favorite baseball movie?
My favorite baseball movie is Major League.
Yeah,
I think they did an amazing job of capturing a lot of the culture of what goes on. But when I got called up, this is one of my favorite, personal experiences. When I got called up for the very first time, we still had DVDs that went into our laptop. I had a DVD version of For Love of the Game.
Oh, yeah.
And I watched it on the plane and cried like a baby that I was accomplishing my dream for the first time. So that one's good too.
The end of Major League is one of the best surprising ending baseball plays because it is a smart play, to point to the sky and then do the little dink butt. And the best reaction, of course, is the third baseman for the Yankees who goes shit, he's like, oh man, he's stuck all the way back in his cleats, having to sprint up and go get it.
When I see that scene, I relate to Jack Taylor running in slow motion to first base because I'm the slowest runner on every team I've ever played for, so I feel his pain there.
It's great. It's totally great. The sounds are good because they lower the volume of the stadium, and then you hear the music in just the piano plays to each one of them. It's awesome. It's really well done. That's why that movie is so legendary. But anyway, okay, we're going to do the speed round here. I'm going to ask you questions. We're going to take a quick shot of gumption, and we're going to go down all the different places down Fun Street and all the different speakeasies we can visit. All of them are about you because they're all fun and they're all cool. Here we go. Ryan, of late, a song that you love to listen to, or maybe one that pumps you up. Maybe it's your new jam.
Oh, boy. I Follow Rivers.
And who performs that?
I don't know. Techno. It's good, though.
I love it. Okay. A favorite food that's not a dessert?
Chicken tikka masala.
Oh, that was real specific. I like that. A favorite dessert?
Banana cream pie.
An activity you wish you did more of?
Cycling.
An activity you wish you did less of?
Cleaning.
By the way, I have to clean my house right now today. That's on my list of things I don't want to do list. I'm
We have,
totally
we have an almost 2-year-old, so it's constant cleaning at home.
Understood. An activity that's relatively new to you that you've recently tried that you like so much you want to tell everybody else to try.
I have done a few Ironmans now, and I love it.
Oh, wow. Impressive. If I could snap my fingers and Ryan Lavarnway could be anywhere in the world, where is he? Where is he?
Auckland.
Oh, in New Zealand. Wow.
Beautiful.
You've been? You've been?
Waiheke Island. There's a winery that on Waiheke Island that overlooks the bay to Auckland. Favorite place in the world.
Oh, wow. One last question here in the baseball spirit here. You've gotten to play in a lot of different ballparks, not counting Fenway, because Fenway is a legendary in one of those. What's your next favorite baseball stadium that you've played at that was one of those like, wow, I can't believe I'm here, or how cool is this?
Well, if you're taking out Fenway, I feel like we have to take out Wrigley Field also, because Wrigley Field is on another level. It's incredible. Beyond those two, I'd probably say Baltimore. It's where I hit my first 2 home runs. It's the first of the modern era stadiums, and it's also where they actually filmed Major League, the movie, even though it's set in Cleveland.
I did not know that. I didn't know they filmed it there. Oh, wow.
Go back and watch that scene knowing it's Camden Yards, and you'll be like, oh, my God, how did I miss that?
Oh, wow. Very cool. Ryan Lavarnway. Everybody check it out. He's got his books. He's got his podcast. He's got everything. Check out all the show notes. It's all there. Hey, man, keep doing what you're doing. Truly a pleasure to have you on the show. And thanks for coming on Thrive Loud.
Amazing. I appreciate you. Thanks.
You got it. To all our listeners out there, thank you for joining us. And until next time, keep moving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Check us out on the web at thriveloud.com and follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook at Thrive Loud. And check us out on the Good Pods app at Thrive Loud, where you can follow, listen, and connect directly to Lou and all of the Thrive Loud episodes. Thanks for listening.